Learn English through story. Gone before dawn. The town of Ashford had always been a quiet place. The kind of town where people locked their doors out of habit rather than fear. Where the morning smelled of fresh bread from the only bakery in town. And where the nights were so still that even the rustling leaves seemed like whispers of old secrets. It was the kind of place where nothing ever happened. Until the night she disappeared. Evelyn Carter was last seen walking home from her late shift at the diner, her silhouette illuminated briefly beneath the flickering street lamp before she vanished into the darkness. By morning, she was gone, leaving behind nothing but an abandoned purse on the side of the road and a mystery that would haunt the town long after the sun rose. For Sheriff Tom Grayson, this case was personal. He had known Evelyn since she was a little girl, had watched her grow up, had even seen the way her father, Henry Carter, would sit outside his home in the early morning, waiting for her to return from work. But this morning, Henry sat alone, staring at the empty road with a hollow look in his eyes. She wouldn't run off, Henry muttered when Tom approached. She had no reason to. Tom wanted to believe that. He wanted to think Evelyn was out there somewhere, safe. But as the hours stretched into a day, then too, the reality sank and Evelyn was gone. And not by choice. Rumours spread like wildfire through the town. Some whispered she had left with a secret lover. Others speculated she had debts she couldn't pay. But Tom knew better. Evelyn wasn't the type to disappear without a trace. Someone had taken her. Someone in Ashford knew the truth. As the search continued, unsettling details began to emerge. A witness claimed to have seen a dark sedan idling near the diner that night. A note, scrawled hastily on the back of a receipt from the diner, was found in her locker. Meet me before dawn. Same place. The deeper Tom dug, the more he realized that Evelyn had secrets that someone had wanted to keep buried. And as he got closer to the truth, one thing became chillingly clear. Whoever had taken Evelyn wasn't finished yet. The town of Ashford wasn't used to mysteries. And that was what made Evelyn Carter's disappearance feel even more unsettling. People in Ashford knew each other. Neighbours exchanged friendly nods at the grocery store, gossiped on their porches, and attended the same Sunday service. It wasn't the kind of place where people simply vanished. And yet, as the days passed without a single clue beyond that abandoned purse and the cryptic note, unease settled over the town like a thick fog. Sheriff Tom Grayson spent his nights poring over case files, going over the same witness statements, hoping anything would break through the silence. He retraced Evelyn's last known steps, from the diner where she worked to the quiet road leading home. There were no cameras, no clear eyewitnesses, just the vague mention of a dark sedan from a passer-by who hadn't thought much of it at the time. The note in Evelyn's locker haunted him. Meet me before dawn. Same place. Where was same place? And who had she planned to meet? Tom wasn't the only one losing sleep. Henry Carter had turned into a shadow of himself, his once sturdy frame hunched with grief. Every morning, he sat on his front porch, eyes fixed on the road, as if hoping his daughter would come walking up the path. She would have told me, he said one afternoon when Tom stopped by. His voice was hoarse, his hands trembling around the mug of coffee he hadn't touched. If she was seeing someone, I would have known. Tom believed him. Henry had raised Evelyn alone since his wife passed away, and their bond had been strong. But people had secrets sometimes, even from those they loved most. The search for Evelyn intensified. Volunteers combed the wooded areas outside of town, dredged the riverbank, and checked every abandoned building. Flyers with her face were plastered on telephone poles, in gas stations, even on the diner's windows. And yet, nothing. Then, just as hope was beginning to wane, a discovery changed everything. It was a cold morning when Deputy Rachel Burns knocked on Tom's office door, her expression grim. They found something, she said. Tom's stomach tightened. He followed her out to the old train yard on the outskirts of town. It was a place that hadn't been used in years. where rusted tracks disappeared beneath overgrown weeds. A group of searchers stood huddled near an abandoned maintenance shed. As Tom approached, they stepped aside, revealing what they had found. A scarf. Evelyn's scarf. Henry identified it immediately. "I gave this to her last Christmas," he whispered, clutching the fabric in his weathered hands. "She never went anywhere without it." But the scarf wasn't just found, it was placed, draped over a wooden beam, as if someone had left it there deliberately. Tom's mind raced. Had Evelyn been here? Or had someone brought her belongings here as a cruel message? And then there was the question that gnawed at him the most. Why this place? The discovery of the scarf reignited the search. Tom instructed his team to comb through every inch of the train yard. If Evelyn had been here, there had to be more evidence. They found footprints, several sets, some old, some fresh. The problem was, the ground was uneven. The tracks overlapped, making it impossible to determine how recent they were. Then, something else. Near the back of the shed, wedged between the wooden planks, was a torn piece of paper. The writing was faint, but when Tom held it up to the light, 2 words became clear. "Help me." The urgency of the message sent a chill through him. It was Evelyn's handwriting. She had been here, but was she still alive? The case took a darker turn. The discovery at the train yard confirmed what Tom had feared. Evelyn hadn't left Ashford of her own will. Someone had taken her. Someone had left clues, whether as a taunt or as a cry for help remained unclear. Tom started looking at people differently. The friendly faces around town. The same people he had known for years, one of them could be responsible. And then, another piece of the puzzle fell into place. A waitress at the diner, Melanie Owens, came forward with new information. She had been hesitant to speak up before, but after seeing the news about Evelyn's scarf, she felt compelled to say something. "The night she disappeared," Melanie said, shifting nervously in her seat. She was arguing with someone outside the diner. "Who?" Tom asked, leaning in. I don't know. I didn't see his face, but he was tall, broad shoulders. I only caught a glimpse through the window. It looked intense, but then he drove off. In a dark sedan. Melanie hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I think so." The dark sedan again. The same one seen near the diner that night. Tom's gut told him this wasn't just some random abduction. Evelyn had known her abductor. But who was he? And what did he want from her? The case continued to unravel, revealing layers of secrets. Evelyn had kept hidden secrets that connected to people Tom never would have suspected. A name surfaced. A man Evelyn had been seeing with in recent months. A man with a past. And as Tom got closer to the truth, he realized that the answers weren't just about Evelyn's disappearance. They were about something much bigger. Something that had been hiding in plain sight all along. Tom Grayson had seen his share of missing persons cases over the years, but none had gnawed at him like this one. The discovery of Evelyn's scarf and the note had only deepened the mystery, confirming what he already suspected. This wasn't a case of a young woman running away. This was something much worse. The people of Ashford had begun to change, too. Fear had crept into their routines. Women no longer walked home alone after dark. Porch lights that had once flickered out at midnight now burned until morning. Parents clutched their children's hands a little tighter in the grocery store. And everywhere Tom went, he felt the weight of their silent questions. When will you find her? He didn't have an answer. The only lead he had was the mention of a manor. Tall figure seen arguing with Evelyn outside the diner. And the dark sedan. He had deputies searching for vehicles matching that description. But there were too many dead ends. Too many people who couldn't recall where they had been that night. But then, something shifted. A new name entered the investigation. It was a rainy evening when Tom stopped by the diner again, hoping Melanie Owens, the waitress who had come forward, might remember more details. As she wiped down the counter, her eyes darted around nervously. "I told you everything I know, Sheriff." Tom studied her carefully. "Are you sure about that?" She hesitated. Then, with a sigh, she lowered her voice. Look, I didn't think it mattered, but Evelyn had been meeting someone. Tom's pulse quickened. Who? I don't know his real name. She always called him Jay. Tom frowned. Jay. Yeah, it was always in whispers. Like she didn't want anyone to know. Melanie glanced around as if afraid someone might overhear. I think she was in trouble, Sheriff. I think she knew it. Trouble, the word lodged itself deep in Tom's chest. Did she ever say what kind of trouble? No, but she was acting different those last few weeks. She wasn't herself. Tom pressed further. Did you ever see this Jay? Melanie bit her lip. Once, but only from a distance. He was unsettling. Tom's fingers tightened around his notepad. How so? He had a way of looking at her. Not like a boyfriend. Not even like a friend. It was like she owed him something. Tom didn't like the sound of that. Did he ever come inside the diner? Melanie shook her head. Never. He always waited outside. Something about that sent a chill through Tom. If Evelyn had been meeting this man in secret, she had a reason for it. And now she was gone. The search for Jay became Tom's new focus. But in a town like Ashford, people didn't give up names easily. Everyone had their own theories about Evelyn's disappearance, but no one had solid answers. Some thought she had been involved in something she shouldn't have. Others believed an outsider had come into town and taken her. Tom had heard it all, but what he needed was proof. He pulled Evelyn's phone records. There were dozens of calls to an unknown, number one that had been disconnected. The day after she vanished, someone was covering their tracks. Tom ran the number through every database he had access to. It led nowhere. But then, another piece of the puzzle emerged. Evelyn's best friend, Lisa Holloway, had left town unexpectedly just days before Evelyn disappeared. No one had thought much of it at the time. But now, Tom wondered if it was more than a coincidence. Lisa Holloway had always been a quiet girl, the type who kept her head down and avoided attention. She had worked a few odd jobs around town, but had never really settled anywhere. Tom tracked her to a small apartment 2 towns over. When she opened the door, her face went pale. I knew this was coming, she whispered. Tom's gut twisted. Then you know why I'm here. Lisa hesitated before stepping aside, letting him in. The apartment was sparse half-packed boxes, an empty coffee cup on the table. It looked like she had been planning to leave again soon. Tom wasted no time. What happened to Evelyn? Lisa's eyes filled with tears. I don't know where she is, but you know what she was involved in. Lisa sank onto the couch, running a hand through her hair. She was scared, Sheriff, really scared. Tom stayed silent, letting her talk. She met this guy, Jay, a few months ago. She never told me much, but I knew he had a hold over her. Lisa's voice wavered. She said he wasn't someone you could just walk away from. Tom's chest tightened. What was she doing for him? Lisa hesitated. I don't know the details, but I think she was caught up in something illegal. I tried to get her to leave town with me. I begged her. Her voice cracked, but she said she couldn't. Tom's mind raced. If Evelyn had been involved with the dangerous man, it explained why she had been secretive. And it explained why she might have disappeared. Tom drove back to Ashford that night with a sinking feeling in his gut. Evelyn had been in trouble. She had known it, and now she was gone. But someone in town still knew more than they were saying. And Tom was going to find them. Because Evelyn Carter wasn't just another missing girl. She was a warning. A reminder that in small towns, secrets don't stay buried forever. And whoever had taken her, whoever had silenced her, was still out there, watching, waiting, ready to strike again. The town that watched in silence. The storm rolled in just before midnight, drenching the quiet streets of Ashford in a relentless downpour. Sheriff Tom Grayson sat at his desk, the dim glow of his desk lamp illuminating the scattered case files in front of him. The edges of Evelyn Carter's missing person poster curled slightly from the damp air. She had been gone for almost a week now. With every passing day, the search grew colder, but Tom wasn't giving up. Something in his gut told him that this case wasn't just about Evelyn. It was about Ashford itself. Someone in this town knew what had happened to her, and someone was keeping a terrible secret. The next morning, Tom drove through town, following an unshakable feeling that he was missing something. Then, something strange happened. As he pulled onto Main Street, he noticed an unfamiliar face, a man standing beneath the awning of a hardware store, watching him with an unsettling stillness. Tom slowed his patrol car. The man didn't flinch. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark jacket, a face that looked vaguely familiar but wrong, as if Tom had seen him before but couldn't quite place where. Then, just as quickly as Tom noticed him, the man turned and walked away. Tom parked and hurried after him. By the time he reached the spot where the man had been, he was gone. Vanished. Tom scanned the street. It was too quiet for someone to disappear that fast. Something about that man gnawed him. Had he been in town before? Was he watching Tom? Or was he watching someone else? That night, Tom returned to his office, his unease growing. He sifted through old case files, searching for anything that might connect to Evelyn's disappearance. And then his phone rang. A blocked number. Tom hesitated before answering. A voice low, rough, like someone speaking through clenched teeth. Stop digging. A chill ran through Tom's spine. Who is this? Let it go, Sheriff. She's already gone. The line went dead. Tom gripped the phone, his jaw tightening. This wasn't just some random abduction. This was a warning. And he wasn't about to back down. Tom's search took him back to the diner, where Melanie Owens reluctantly admitted something she hadn't told him before. A week before Evelyn vanished, she had been acting different, jumpy, restless. She was trying to get out of something, Melanie said, lowering her voice. Out of what? Tom pressed. Melanie hesitated, then whispered, she was hiding money, Sheriff. Tom frowned. Money. She kept slipping cash into her apron. Small amounts. But she was saving it up for something. I think she was trying to leave town. Tom's pulse quickened. Evelyn had been planning to run, but someone had stopped her before she could. The next day, Tom finally got a break. A witness came forward, an old man, who worked night shifts at the gas station on the edge of town. He had seen something the night Evelyn disappeared. A car, the man said, rubbing his stubbled chin. Black, parked near the diner. Driver sat there for almost an hour. What did he look like? Tom asked. Didn't see his face, but he was waiting for someone. Tom's stomach clenched. What happened next? She got in the car. Tom's blood ran cold. Evelyn? The old man nodded. Yeah, looked nervous, but she got in. Drove off toward the old train yard. The train yard. The same place where her scarf had been found. Tom gripped the counter. Why didn't you tell anyone? The man exhaled, looking away. Because I thought she was leaving on her own. But she hadn't. She had been taken. And now Tom knew exactly where to look next. Tom and his deputies combed through the woods behind the train yard, searching for anything they had missed before. Then, just beyond the tree line, hidden beneath tangled branches and overgrown weeds, they found it. An abandoned hunting cabin. The windows were boarded up. The door was slightly ajar. Tom's hand went to his holster. He motioned for his deputy to cover him. Then, slowly, he pushed the door open. The inside smelled of damp wood and dust. An old mattress lay on the floor, stained and torn. Empty food wrappers littered the corner. And then Tom saw it. A bracelet. Evelyn's bracelet. He picked it up, his heart pounding. She had been here. Recently. But was she still alive? A sound. A twig snapping just outside the cabin. Tom spun, gun drawn. A shadow moved between the trees. Tom's heart pounded as he stepped onto the porch. Sheriff's Department. Show yourself. Silence. Then footsteps, retreating into the darkness. Tom ran after them, crashing through the underbrush, his breath coming in sharp gasps. The figure was fast, slipping between trees like a ghost. Then just as suddenly as he appeared, he was gone, vanished into the night. But Tom knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over. Someone had been keeping Evelyn here, and they had just been watching him. The next morning, Tom called Henry Carter to his office. He laid the bracelet on the desk. Henry's hands trembled as he picked it up. His eyes filled with unshed tears. "It's hers." Tom leaned forward. "Henry, is there anything at all you haven't told me?" A long pause. Then, Henry exhaled. "There's something I should have told you before." Tom waited. Henry's voice was barely above a whisper. "She wasn't just trying to leave town." Tom frowned. "What do you mean?" Henry swallowed hard. "She was running from him." Tom's breath caught in his throat. "Who?" Henry closed his eyes. Then, in a voice filled with quiet fear, he said the name. A name that changed everything. A name Tom never expected. Because the man Evelyn had feared was someone Tom had known all his life. The investigation had taken a dark turn. Evelyn's disappearance was no longer just a crime. It was a cover-up. A carefully orchestrated plan to keep her from revealing something. And now Tom was certain of one thing. Evelyn had discovered a secret someone would kill to keep buried. And if he didn't find her soon, she wouldn't be coming back. The name Henry Carter had whispered sent a chill down Tom Grayson's spine. Because it wasn't a stranger. It wasn't some out-of-town criminal. It was Nathan Holloway, a respected businessman. A man who had lived in Ashford for decades. A man who had built half the town's infrastructure with his money. A man people trusted. And Lisa Holloway's uncle. Tom's breath came slow and deliberate. "Henry, you need to be sure. If you're wrong..." "I'm not wrong," Henry interrupted, gripping the edge of the desk. "She told me. She said she was afraid of him." Tom leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Nathan Holloway wasn't just another suspect. He was one of the most powerful men in Ashford, which meant this case was about to get a hell of a lot more complicated. Nathan Holloway owned nearly half the businesses in Ashford. He donated to the church, funded the community centre, and played golf with the mayor. He wasn't the kind of man people accused without evidence. But Tom didn't care about reputation. He cared about Evelyn. And if Nathan Holloway was involved in her disappearance, then Tom was going to prove it. That night, he drove past Holloway's estate, a sprawling, gated property on the outskirts of town. The windows were dark. The house loomed against the night sky like a silent fortress. Then he noticed something. A single light in the guest house. Someone was awake, watching, waiting. Tom clenched his jaw. He'd be back. But not yet. Not without a plan. The next morning, Tom began digging into Nathan Holloway's past. What he found was unsettling. Over the years, several young women had left Ashford without warning. Runaways, people had said. Girls who had wanted a fresh start somewhere else. But now Tom saw the pattern. They had all worked for Holloway. And they had all disappeared. Had Evelyn uncovered something? Had she confronted him? And had he made her vanish because of it? The house that was never searched. Tom knew he had to get inside Holloway's estate. But he needed a reason. That's when he had an idea. He called Lisa Holloway. She answered on the first ring, her voice filled with hesitation. "Sheriff?" "Lisa, I need your help." A long pause. Then, finally, "What do you need me to do?" That evening, Lisa showed up at her uncle's house unannounced. Nathan greeted her at the door, surprised but smiling. "Lisa, what a surprise. I just wanted to talk," she said, forcing a nervous smile. "Can I come in?" Nathan studied her for a moment, then stepped aside. "Of course." Lisa entered the house, and outside, hidden in the darkness, Tom waited. Tom slipped through the side entrance while Lisa distracted Nathan. Moving quickly, he searched the house. Then, in the small study near the back of the house, he found something. A locked drawer. He forced it open. Inside, there were photos. Dozens of them. Pictures of young women, including Evelyn. Tom's stomach churned. Then he found something worse. A necklace. Evelyn's necklace. Blood-stained. And in that moment, Tom knew. Nathan Holloway wasn't just involved. He was the reason Evelyn was gone. Tom barely had time to react before he heard Nathan's voice behind him. "I was wondering when you'd come looking." Tom turned, his hand hovering near his gun. Nathan stood in the doorway, his face calm, but his eyes dark with something dangerous. "You shouldn't be here, Sheriff." Tom held up the necklace. "Where is she?" Nathan smiled. "Gone." A beat of silence. Then, a gunshot, and everything went dark. When Tom woke up, he was in a cold, damp basement, tied to a chair. Nathan Holloway stood in front of him, watching. "You don't understand, Sheriff," he said quietly. "Some people don't deserve to leave." Tom's blood boiled. "What did you do to her?" Nathan tilted his head. "You'll never find her." Tom clenched his fists. He wasn't going to die here. And Evelyn wasn't going to be just another missing girl. He would find her, and he would end this. One way or another. Tom managed to escape. Barely. With Lisa's help, he got out of the basement, out of the estate, and straight to the station. Nathan Holloway was arrested, but Evelyn was still missing. And then, a phone call. A voice Tom didn't recognize. "She's still alive, Sheriff." Tom's heart pounded. "Where is she?" "Find the red barn, before it's too late." And just like that, the line went dead. Tom drove faster than he ever had in his life. The red barn was old, abandoned for years. When he kicked open the door, dust swirled in the air, and in the far corner, bound, bruised, eyes wide with fear, was Evelyn Carter, alive. Barely. Tom ran to her, cutting the ropes, pulling her into his arms. She was shaking. "I thought I was going to die here." Tom's jaw clenched. Not today. He carried her out into the night, and behind them, the past of Ashford burned away. Nathan Holloway never spoke a word after his arrest, but the truth came out anyway. For years, he had been preying on young women, forcing them into silence. Evelyn had found out, and she had nearly died for it. But she hadn't. She had survived. And in the end, the town that had once watched in silence finally opened its eyes. Ashford wasn't the same after Nathan Holloway's arrest. For years, the town had lived in comfortable ignorance, pretending not to see the darkness beneath its surface. Now, that darkness had been dragged into the light, and it left behind a town that was cracked, unsettled. Some people still whispered that Nathan had been framed, that men like him didn't do things like this. Others felt the weight of guilt because deep down, they had always known something was wrong. They had seen the fear in Evelyn's eyes, and they had looked away. She wasn't the same either. Evelyn Carter had survived, but she wasn't living. She barely spoke. She barely slept. She spent her days staring out the window of her father's house, flinching at shadows, her hands tightening whenever footsteps approached. Lisa visited her, trying to coax her into conversation. But Evelyn just smiled that small, fragile smile and said, "I'm fine." Lisa knew she wasn't. Tom knew, too, because sometimes survival isn't the hardest part. It's living with what happened that breaks you. Nathan Holloway's trial was the biggest event in Ashford's history. The courtroom was packed every day. The press swarmed the courthouse. The town held its breath. And then Evelyn took the stand. For the first time since her rescue, she spoke. She told them about the night she was taken, how she had confronted Nathan, demanding answers about the other missing girls, how he had smiled, like it was all a joke, how he had told her she was next, how he had locked her away in that barn, leaving her to rot in the dark. Her voice never wavered, but her hands trembled. And when the jury delivered their verdict guilty, on all counts Evelyn Carter finally breathed again. Justice doesn't heal everything. Nathan Holloway was gone, locked away, but Evelyn still woke up in the middle of the night, gasping for breath, feeling the phantom weight of ropes around her wrists. She still avoided dark places. She still felt eyes on her when she walked down the street. And worst of all, she still felt the guilt, because the other girls were still gone. She was the only one who had been found, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she should have done more, that she should have saved them, too. Months passed. The town tried to move on, tried to forget, but the past never stays buried. And one night, Tom received an anonymous letter. Inside was a single sentence. Nathan wasn't working alone. Tom's breath caught. He reread the note, his pulse pounding. Someone was still out there. Someone who knew exactly what happened to those other girls. And someone who wasn't done yet. Tom spent days trying to trace the letter. No fingerprints, no clues. But he knew one thing. If Nathan hadn't acted alone, then Ashford's nightmare wasn't over. And Evelyn wasn't safe. One evening, Evelyn found a box on her doorstep. No name, no return address. She hesitated before opening it. Inside, a photograph. A picture of her, taken from outside her window, and scrawled across the back. "You should have stayed gone." Evelyn dropped the photo, her breath coming in short, panic gasps. She wasn't free. She had only uncovered part of the truth. And someone in Ashford still wanted her to disappear. Forever. The moral: justice doesn't always mean safety. And some secrets aren't finished being buried.